Hey everyone, this is Jason here at Grand Slam, and I'm coming to you from my home, and we're gonna do a Secret Warriors Secret War Journal, Grand Slam style. I know I've been a little behind. You're gonna get my last week thoughts, and you're gonna get this week's, hopefully, in a short time together. So I do apologize if it has been a while. I got last week was really small, and I read all the stuff. I just kind of didn't have time, or whatever. So we're back at it. So I have time now. So this week, it's just 5 books. This was the last week. The last week of July. It was a small week for comics. So let's get going. The first book, just to briefly mention, there was a Deadpool's Secret Wars that came out, and I don't have that book here, but it's not one that I read. So to be perfectly honest, it's basically Secret Wars is basically all about Deadpool doing stuff in the 1980s and kind of inserting him into the old story, and it's goofy and fun. And if you're into the whole Deadpool scene, you can kind of pause this, go watch the trailer, and then you get an idea of like, okay, there's a movie coming out. Get excited, people. Honestly, I don't really care for the current book right now, but if you are a Deadpool fan, definitely check it out. That's as far as I can go with the review because I'm just not reading it. I flipped through it. Decapitations, chimichangas, the typical stuff that happens in those books. So another book that I was very hesitant about very early on is MODOK Assassin. Issue 1 I kind of skimmed through. I didn't really get into. MODOK runs around Killville just murdering things. At the end, he runs into old Angela, though. So I was like, okay, well, I'm an Angela connoisseur, at least of the Marvel brand. So I have to sit down and read that book. And I talked about that. It's very redundant. Nothing really exciting happened. At the end, MODOK loves Angela. Angela is like, why, what the turducken? And, that's kind of what we have going on. This one is kind of a little bit more the same of that. Very early on, MODOK and Angela are having to team up to fight against people. Angela is a Thor, but like she can't use her hammer, and there's a Thor that shows up that they have to team up and fight. And then they kind of resolve to go, well, we have to go around Killville and kill these guild assassins that they're running into. And so they just annihilate them. They just murder, and that's what MODOK does. He's designed only to kill. So he goes ahead, and Angela's like, oh, all the murder, all the gore. It's like so tragic. And then towards the end, we find out that there's some rulers of Killville, kind of like Kingpin and Wolverine and Sabretooth show up. So all like the big bads or the big killers on the block show up, and they're getting ready to throw down. But all of a sudden at the very end, we run into these creatures called Mindless. And you might remember them. They were from the original Sin storyline that happened last year. They're kind of a weird, thing. So they're running into the Mindless, and that's what's happening. So MODOK Assassin, it's fun if you like if you like the MODOK brand, if you like MODOK, kind of just constantly talking about murdering people, and Angela being just like, what's going on here? What's up with this guy? You think he has a crush on me? I mean, how can you even reciprocate a crush on a giant flying head? Yeah, I don't know. But if you like that brand of humor, that's a thing. What isn't so funny, and you would think it would be, is Age of Ultron versus Marvel Zombies. So at first I always thought this was just going to be kind of a jokester book. Marvel Zombies is more dark humor, and then Age of Ultron just robots and these zombies fighting. That's not the case at all. This kind of turned into be a very intriguing storyline. In the first issue, we basically see Hank Pym from the Timely verse being thrown over the wall. And so some people collect him. That's Vision, Simon Williams, who's Wonder Man, and Toro, or I think it's Toro. His name's James or Jimmy, but the original Human Torch from way back in time in the golden age of Marvel when it was Timely. So they collect him, and they take him to a secret place, beyond the wall. They have a secret fortress that they're kind of building up, and they're like, we're going to fight back against these two sparring factions, because Age of Ultron and the robots of perfection and the zombies of the wasteland I don't think it's the wasteland, it's called something else, but they don't get along. They kind of feud, and so they're going to try to put an end to that. So you find out some information about how Toro who's a robot. He's Robot Man. How he's kind of an android, and Vision's Incorporated, and Simon Williams, Wonder Man, and they're all kind of linked together. So they have a really cool origin story that they talk about in here, which has no bearing on anything, right? It's just that here's their story. This is what's going on with them. But they find Hank Pym, who, can't. He says artificial intelligence. He doesn't understand what an artificial man is, like, because he's from the old west and he makes tinker toys, or he makes, like, steam engine kind of people that he got kicked out by Doom to the wall. So they're like, hey, you're Hank Pym, you're super smart, you're going to help us overrun the Age of Ultron robots with Ultrons, because you obviously know how to deal with Ultrons. And he's like, what do I know about Ultrons? I got a thing here on my shirt. I'm totally, not into that. I don't know enough about it. It's like, well, you're going to learn, and you're going to help us overcome these great obstacles. So hopefully in the next issue, there's just a killer montage of, like, Hank Pym, getting super smart and, understanding things. So, like I said, it's not a bad book. It's a little more intrigue than I had expected at first. So we'll see where that continues to go. I'm sure it has something kind of tied into Battleworld. 1602, Witch Hunter Angela. Once again, I'm an Angela connoisseur, so I have to read these. This is written by Kieran Gillen. Beautiful art throughout the book. There are multiple artists. I think there's just 2 artists in this one. But just really beautiful art in here. In this one, what we have in Bennett as well. Marjorie Bennett writes this. So they get together and they're having just a really cool book. It's a really cool story about Angela and her relationship with Sarah, which we've kind of already looked at in the Angela, Assassin of Asgard story. And in this one, they're going around, they're killing witch breeds, they're adventurers, the duo are adventuring. In this book, they run into the Guardians of the Galaxy, who aren't the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're like the Guardians of Sherwood Forest or something. They're an acting troupe. And they all are like, the people, they're kind of 1602 style of Guardians of the Galaxy, which is cool because that's something that we haven't had before. So we kind of have this, we meet these characters, they go into a town. Sarah tells a story to entertain people, but it's really about the background of what's going on with Sarah and Angela and how they get along in their personal relationship. And then they run into an Eddie Brock type character, and by type character I mean it's Eddie Brock. He's a printer and he's all venomed out, and they have to kill Venom, and they slay the beast, and then they're like, cool, we're out of town. Moving on to the next town. So this isn't really tied into Battleworld. It's just kind of a unique story. I think it's going to be cool down the road. This is actually one of the better 1602. There hasn't really been good 1602 follow-ups to 1602. And so Kieran Gillen and Marjorie Bennett, they're doing a really good job of kind of hearkening back to the Neil Gaiman, honoring that world that he made. So I was really excited about it, and this is a good book. I think down the road, this is one that we can probably recommend to people as something like, man, you missed out on this one. This one, real quick, is Thor's Battleworld. Thor's in issue number 2, or is this issue 2, right? Yeah. Thor's is basically cops with Thors. They're the Thor Corps, and they rule everything, and they have jurisdiction over everything. But someone died last issue, Beta Ray Bill. There's a whole mysterious murder thing going on right now. So at the beginning, we kind of have like the police wake of like, the cop that died. And then they're like, well, they're resolved to like find out like what happened. And they have a lead, Betsy Ross. All these Betsy Rosses keep dying, or there's Betsy Rosses everywhere. And they don't really know who this Betsy Ross is. Now, we know, if you've been reading Thor, that she's going to be the Thor in the all different Marvel. And so there's a conspiracy going on with that, and a mystery, and we don't know. And the cops are trying to figure it out, and they're looking for leads. And that's kind of what this issue is about, is, they're going around and trying to find people. Ultimate Thor is the other character that's following, and he gets to run into Odin's son. And Odin, they have a conversation, a conflict, and like, well, something. He's like, I do, but I'm not going to tell you about it. Just lay low. Don't look into the whole Betsy Ross thing. It's only going to end in bad stuff. So that's kind of where that ends up. They're still looking for more suspects, people who could help. They eventually run into Loki. So it's a good, mysterious book. It's a cop story. Nothing really fancy. Last but not least, X-Men 92. Zero clue what this has to do with Battleworld, but this book is awesome because I've already talked about it. It is very Claremont, written, very dense. It's a big book. I think this one's even $4.99, and it's just a big book about the X-Men, Cassandra Cain, or is it Cassandra Nova? I think it's. I'm gonna get that name wrong, and I have to go back and look at stuff, and I can't find it. Cassandra Nova, So she like trapped all the X-Men, and now she's kind of judging them. She's trying to brainwash them and go through each of the X-Men. And so she does that with a few of the X-Men. She finds Wolverine. She's like, I can fix you, and mentally fix you. And Storm, no, you can't be fixed. You're too perfect, or you're too altruistic. So she throws him in a reject room along with Beast. So she's going through and processing all this. And then Jubilee was not in the room when that happened. So she's kind of like out there as her own agent doing her own stuff. So it's just cool. It goes through all the fun X-Men stuff, the X-Men relationships, peoples and characters, what's going on in their head, a lot of mental stuff. That's what Claremont always did best. He always did really elaborate stories. And so really impressed with this. It's thick, it's dense, and it's just got all sorts of great X-Men references in it. Once again, I'm not quite sure how this ties into the whole Battle World thing, but it's a fun book. And if you like to get your X-Men on, this is a great book to get your X-Men on with. So this was kind of my pick to click from last week. So there you are. That is a long video talking about just 5 books. So I talk way too long, and I don't know how I'm going to do one about 11 books. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. As usual, 1730 West Eisenhower, come talk to me if you're interested in these books. Please follow us on our Facebook. And, you can find us on Twitter at Team Grand Slam. I'm trying to use that a little more. I'm trying to get more of the social media going. So thanks for tuning in, and hope you have a great day.